Good morning. All right, this is last call. Come on in and find your seat. Get comfortable. We're going to get started here. So exciting when we all get together. I'm Rick Devins. I'm the Communications Director here at MGA. We're excited to have you on the MGA campus. Whenever we all get together, it energizes me. You know what else energizes me? Silencing my cell phone. So I invite you to take this moment, silence your cell phone. No one wants to be that person. And then we're going to get right into this. We're going to get started because you're not here to listen to me. Let's please welcome to the stage President Blake.
Good morning. It is great to be together again and to start a new year. And today I'd like the theme to focus on a new decade. Because 10 years ago we gathered here and we had just been elevated by the Board of Regents from being a state college to a state university. And I said the other day, sometimes that feels like yesterday, and sometimes it seems a long, long time ago. But we have made that journey, and today we have convocation. The Latin word for convocation is to come together, to be together. So that's exactly what this is. It's a gathering. And the theme that you can see up there is that this is a second decade, and I want us today to look back and think about what we've done. I want us to think where we are right now. We will do a review of where we stand today and at the beginning of a new academic year. And then I also want to tease the question and ask you in your departments, in your schools, in your own work to think about what now will the next decade look like. So that's the goal of today. I also want to say I'm very excited that not only are we together, but we are being joined later this morning by the Chancellor of the University System, Dr. Sonny Perdue. He will be coming along probably in about 45 minutes, and I've asked him to make a few remarks, which he will, and I will likely adjust the schedule to accommodate the Chancellor's agenda for the day. So he'll be with us, he'll be joining us shortly. So let's get going. I've got a few slides, and I want to focus quickly on each of them, but I want to make sure that I don't lose you. And get to a point where people are thinking, okay, when's the next bit? When's the Chancellor here? Let's start. First of all, we each represent 760 full-time employees of Middle Georgia State University, and we also have hundreds of part-timers, some of whom are with us today. So we are a large community of faculty and staff, and I want to underline the word community there, not faculty or staff. I want to say we're a community, and we can only work in that community. But we also have, since we gathered here a year ago, we have 52 full-time faculty and staff who have joined us, who have been with us since Convocation last year, maybe joining in January, because that's a common beginning for many of our colleagues when they start. So I would like, this is the first stretch of the morning, I would like to ask those 52 individuals who have joined Middle Georgia, would you please stand so we can recognize and thank you for becoming part of our community. Please stand up. Welcome. Welcome. We're going to cover 4 areas. This is quite typical. Those of you, actually, before we get there, let me ask one other question. We can do this with a show of hands. How many of us in this room were here in 2015 when we had our first university convocation? Hey, look at that. That's a lot. Give ourselves a round of applause for that. Because each of us have, but the 10-year veterans, the decathlete or the decade athletes, they have lived out this first decade every day and have done what I often say, which is build a brand new institution. And most of us don't get to do that, and we have done that. So whether you're joining us today or whether you've been there for 10 years or longer, and many longer, I'm looking at Dr. Brannon here and many of our colleagues, that a lot longer. You have helped build this institution from the ground up. So this is a great moment to take stock of that. That's what we're covering. Vital signs, that's a health reference, you know that. But it seems to me that's the here and now. So if I want to look back and I want to look forward, I want to start, what's it looking like today? And by the way, is this volume okay? Okay, good. All right. So vital signs, I focus on a few things. I want to look at who comes to our community. We traditionally call that enrollment. I want to look at the different ways they come to our community. I'm going to look at how we are resourcing their learning and whether we're making progress and doing a good job and how we spend some of those funds. So that's the vital signs. But then I also want to talk about how they succeed. But it seems to me coming here is not really what it's about. It's actually this stage. This is the metaphor for student success. We want them across this stage in the quickest practicable time with the least amount of debt. That's it. If nothing else, remember that. Our work is the most students in the quickest practicable time with the least amount of debt. Walking across here, having their photo taken, and on they go. Right, vital signs, part one. Let's look at enrollment. Our goal for this year is 8,620. It would grow our enrollment overall by about another 200 students. We have a way to go. Today, I had a quick look before I came down. We are fractionally ahead of where we were this time last year on this day. Fractionally. And that breaks down the charts you can see over the years. They break down in those three colors into dual enrollment, undergraduate, and graduate. And Middle Georgia needs to embrace all of those. But last year I made a call. I said undergraduate is the focal point, the primary focal point, not the exclusive focal point, but the primary focal point of what we need to do. And our undergraduate enrollment today is slightly behind. So to our fantastic folks working in enrollment management, in the bursar's office, even in admissions, because students are still coming in the next 2 weeks, before we get to the 19th, which is kind of like August the 19th, a major day in almost sort of saying that's the number we have, and then census in October. We have a lot of work to do. I have said that for now 12 years, but in the last decade, you've heard it over and over. That is work that when you get back to your office, either later today or tomorrow morning, please pick that up. Please pick that up because we are fractionally ahead overall, but in undergraduate, we're slightly under on last year. And we have a goal that's an increased goal. When we look at credit hours, we got the same issue. For those of you who are joining Middle Georgia, credit hours are the way that we get our state appropriation funding. It's very important that we don't just look at the number of students, but the amount of hours our students are taking. And we know that many of our students want to work part-time. They have jobs, they have lives, but nonetheless, the credit hours they take, the amount of classes they take is critical to their success. So our credit hours, again, we have a goal there, an aggressive goal of 89,000 by census, and we still have some ways to go. This one is really for each of the deans and the Office of Academic Affairs to spend some time looking at. We do not have a picture of the same going on across the different majors, departments, and schools. We have some areas that are growing. We have some areas that have declined. And we have some that have not bounced back from the pandemic. I ask you this. I share that data with no intent other than the question. Please discuss with your colleagues. If you are in a situation where less students are coming, talk about what we can do to increase that. If you're in a situation where you're seeing more students coming, and there are several programs where that's happening, make sure you have the availability, the resources, the ideas to make sure they succeed, because you can have a problem when you have too many people. Occasionally you need to get out more chairs for them at the back, for example. So it's a really important piece for leadership to evaluate what is going well, what isn't going well, and how do we turn that. And it's a slow turn. There is no quick, immediate solution. It's a decade solution. But I show that and I ask our academic colleagues and our department chairs and our deans to have that conversation in earnest about how can we see ourselves continue to serve the students of Middle Georgia. This is just the same chart. I'm not going to dwell on it, but a different line showing over the last 4 years the trends that have gone on. And that's important data that I want you to take back to your units and look at. When we look at this over the last 10 years, these charts on the left in purple are students who come to us in person, like we are today. We're not doing this remotely. I don't do this on Teams. I wouldn't do this on Teams. We come here. This is in person. We're the purple bit. The gray bit in the middle is hybrid. And the bit that's on the right, that may be purple too, but I'm slightly colorblind. To me, that looks black, but if it isn't, it doesn't matter. It's on the right side. The bit that's increased so dramatically is online. And of course, the pandemic moved everybody online. I want to give a shout out because I have asked the provost over the years, be careful that we don't let that just move without us choosing to move it. We need to make choices, leadership. That's actually what the word strategy means. It's a Roman military term for the art of winning at war. We need a strategy to be able to know what is the right size for each of these areas. We will never not have an online community. Our students are around the many campuses, and they're also doing, as I mentioned, part-time work. We will need online classes. But I ask, again, our academic leadership, decide whether you have the right mix. My challenge is the gray. Let's increase the gray. The hybrid. Students need flexibility, but they also need to engage. They need the relationship with a faculty member. They need to know that they can come and talk to their department chair about their options. What majors could I do? And they don't just want to do that online. This is difficult stuff. I'm your president. I know that this has no easy solution, but I absolutely hold us accountable myself. Because the gentleman that's walking in later, he sure has this data. The USG is aware of this. And they will make decisions about institutional support based on whether they think we're putting in the effort to provide the best student experience. So that's what's happened. I'm just very proud of how, if you look at the last 5 years, thank you, faculty. Thank you, department chairs and deans. Thank you, Provost Jenks. You've held the online at about 40%. The question that I'm not going to give you the answer to is 40% the right number, and is that where we want to be in 10 years' time? That's the question. I'm not going to give you the answer, but I will press the question. I will go on pressing the question. What is the right amount for our students? Okay, enough on that. And I think that that large amount of online has had an actual effect. This measures the amount of student activity on campus in terms of taking classes, at least one class. And friends, it's the old adage that there may be too many cooks in the kitchen. The administration has a majority of its offices in Macon. My office is in Macon as well as in Cochrane. And the danger of that is there's too many chiefs in the kitchen and no one looking after Macon. Look what's happened to Macon. The decline in students taking at least one class. Now, I want to give a shout out for what we've done in Dublin. There's been some effort, and we're about to turn some attention, and I'm thrilled that we now have a plan for the Warner Robins campus that I think will increase activity there. But this is a gauge of what happens over a period of years, and we have these resources of 5 campuses that we need to staff. So again, a question: how will we make sure each of our campus has a thriving presence of humanity? That can be in different ways. It doesn't have to be in students taking classes, but we are a university, so at least that has to be part of the solution. Okay, all of that was a bit like, ooh, what's happening? But look at what has happened here. The first year experience. This is seminars that we have provided intending to make sure that our first year students, as an access university, continue at Middle Georgia State. I am delighted that we have seen an increase of 61% of students who have improved their academic standing in year over year by going through the first year experience. Now, I won't today take you through the first year experience. It's looking at academic events. Attendance has gone up by over 55% at those academic events, but I think the results are there. I don't think it is simply serendipitous that we do these things and, oh, more students are passing. They are taking the integration of those events into their learning and they're performing at a higher level. So kudos and thank you to those running the first year experience. My question is this: what will you do with it in the next 10 years? How will it be stronger, better engaged with, more readily adopted? Same with student success for focused learning support in mathematics. Now, this is interesting. For a while, we talked about a rising tide raises all boats, and it does. I mean, that's just the feature of, I guess, physics and gravity. It does. However, most educational work, and I'm so proud of the work that's gone on here, has yielded the best elevation if you target it at specific groups. And we had problems with students in learning support, particularly in mathematics. So I want to give a shout out to Academic Affairs for focusing on that. And we have seen a 14% increase. Overall pass rates of 73% now. Keep doing that and keep doing more of that. Think what comes next and how you want to do that. 479 students benefited from this support, and those students will continue because of that. So I'm seeing some very welcome signs that should be guideposts for the next year, certainly, and beyond. I really want to give a shout out. Our friends in Academic Affairs and Student Affairs have collaborated so well on trying to make sure that when students come to Middle Georgia, they have opportunities outside the classroom. This is very easy. I'm not going to read this through, but look at the amount that has gone on. It's a one-year increase of 50% of total attendees. There's a lot of activities available for students. And I love this, I will read that, 35,000 attendee people, meaning if you add them all up and all the different, that's in 1 year. That's extraordinary. I mentioned earlier, we're still on vital signs, but I want to get onto the next section, but I challenge us with this. When we look at our bachelor's, no surprise, our bachelor's degrees are slow in getting to fulfillment. Our graduate programs have increased. Our associate's programs are pretty flat, but we primarily have been focusing our efforts on baccalaureate. Now, we want to make sure that we see more bachelor's students graduate. Ask the question with your colleagues. What do we need to do? Who needs to lead that? Who needs to help follow it and make it happen? But our degrees awarded, currently, the good news is we're edging on about 1,300 to 1,400 degrees awarded a year. And I challenge us, let's get to 1,500. It's a manageable target. We humans like targets. We reach for them. Let's get to 1,500 students a year graduating at Middle Georgia. I'd like to talk briefly to the fiscal situation. This is a really healthy way of looking how Middle Georgia pays its bills. The majority, you can see, comes from state appropriations, but we rely on tuition, and we also rely on other ways in which we raise revenue. Two major points here, just two. The first one, I can use the little zapper here to show what has happened here. You'll notice this has gone up in the last few years. That was due to the Board of Regents and the Chancellor supporting our tuition being the same as the rest of the state sector. And that was important revenue that has come in. The second piece about this, you'll see the decline. That is due to the COVID money, what was called the HERF money, expiring a couple of years ago. So it's natural that the overall revenue has slightly declined. But Middle Georgia is an easy number to remember. Our revenue, we run everything. We run everything on $150 million. And that is a sizable amount, but we have 5 campuses. We have hundreds and hundreds of employees. And most importantly, we have students to teach. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, I'm extremely proud. We are one of the best in the university system to allocate to instruction. Over 50% of every dollar that comes in goes directly into instruction, But then we also have large amount going into academic support here, and student services, and maintaining our facilities, and then providing all the administrative and institutional support that we all represent in terms of doing that. And most recently, and I want to make that announcement, I know that many of you are aware, but we have developed the Department of Educational Outreach under a vice provost, and the Center for Middle Georgia Studies and the other centers will be part of that, tasked in this second decade with taking what we do so well and making sure the communities have access to it. The communities. And I give an example. I had a major foundation that talked to me last night, just last night. They didn't know it was at an event. And they asked, would you be able to come and help us, our foundation and all our staff? We need help with understanding how to use AI. So of course I said, we will. And we'll go on doing more and more and more of that through this. And we're able to add that little by little to the revenue pot. So I do want to say, one of the important things if you take the human factor in this, we spend 82% of our total expenditure is on people. 82% goes on our personal services. That's our employees. So thank you for what you do. You are our most important resource. You are invaluable to the life of this university. And we have that responsibility to then make that investment work for our students. Part 2, and it will be moving quicker. The vital sign. I will be happy to send this out to the campus later. So if you then have questions about some of these specifics, please email me. Please just send me an email. So I don't really understand that chart. Can you help me understand it? Because I've looked at this a lot and I understand it, but I realize for many of us, like our students, when they see it the first time, like when I see a Sudoku puzzle, I got to spend a lot of time figuring that out. Some people can do that quickly. I really can't. Part 2, how do we invest? Really great. I want to look back quickly as well as look forward. In the past decade, we've raised $75 million in local, state, and federal grants. These are not tuition. This is not state appropriations. This is money that we have gone to the communities, to the government agencies, and because of our outstanding programs, been able to raise revenue for. And I want to ask the question, if we hadn't had that 75 million, just think of what we'd be missing, what wouldn't be taking place that is taking place. It's been a great story. And the next decade, I don't know how many million, but we have to do it. In fact, one of the responsible things that you can help me with is to figure out where are there opportunities for grants, for funds, for government money that would help your area. And we now have our first grant and sponsored projects office precisely to pioneer this kind of work. So it's a really important part of our overall revenue that we have got elected officials making tough decisions about public funds, and Middle Georgia has had $75 million. That's a really great story of the last decade, and it's a story that has to go on into the next one. When we look at private support, this is our alumni, this is us in this room, this is grants from foundations. We have had nearly $30 million in the last 10 years that has been raised privately for Middle Georgia State. And I want to give a shout out. We in this room, over the last decade, have raised nudging on. Actually, today I know the numbers, and it's actually very, very close to 1 million. We've raised $1 million internally, which has gone to help all those students. So thank you. That is significant help. You and I know there are many students who drop out because they have a balance of $1,500. Well, we can now help them get their balance so they can register. That's because of the work that you and you and you and me and others and the alums have done to help believe in the value of this institution. In the last 3 years, private support has increased to 15 million. Now, the reason that makes me very excited is our last campaign raised 11.6. We haven't been in a campaign mode. We've just been doing operationally consistent work with our donors, and we've raised over $15 million from 1,400 donors. And now, as of this week, we've launched our faculty and staff campaign for this fall. For those of you who have attended the events, the leadership events, thank you. For those of you who have already returned a pledge card, thank you also. And I ask everyone in this room, please participate. I'm not interested in the level. I really am not. It's about the percentage of our employees who engage in doing this, who say, yeah, I don't mind writing out a check or having a payroll deduction. The amount is up to you. But the more, we had a record last year. We had over $100,000 raised in 1 year from our employees. And my challenge is, let's raise the bar on that this year. So thank you. And shortly, this year, this is something that's going to happen this year, we will complete what's called a feasibility study about a campaign. Use the metaphor of countdown and launch here. We're still in the countdown phase. We're counting down close. And during that, that's when we quiet. It's called the quiet phase. That's when we continue. We don't say to a donor who comes along and says, I'd like to make a gift. We don't say, sorry, we're not in the campaign yet. You can't make your gift. We'll take the gift whenever it comes, but that's where we are right now, the quiet phase. And then we will look at a significant campaign. We don't yet know the figure. We're going to have to, I'm using just the fact that we've raised 15. It's going to be more than that, I expect, but we need to complete the study. And then we will begin a campaign in earnest, built around student experience and providing the academic tools to be able to do what will raise the bar for those students. Part 3, the Roman military art of war, art of winning, strategy. We have let's remember, we have a strategic plan, and we're midway through it. And it's been a great plan. It has guided these accomplishments in the past year. In the past year, you can read some of those things there. I'm thrilled that we have our first sorority. We've heard a lot about NCAA, and that's great, but the fact that we have our first sorority, we now have a graduate school, an official graduate school. This has been a good year, and thank you for making it such a great year. It is also, and this is the part, it's not just random good events. It's part of the plan that we've been following, and it's clear that the next 2 years before this plan finishes, that we want to make sure we finish our current strategic plan really well. So today I'm kind of telescoping in and out. I'm thinking about 2-3 years, but I'm also thinking about 10 years. They do not contradict each other. They're consistent, but follow the plan. It's producing change that our students are benefiting from. One of the really big things is that in, 3 weeks, we submit to SAC-COC, our accreditors, we submit our documentation. If you have been on the writing teams, if you've been submitting materials for SACs, if you've been listening to Monica and Chris, getting their emails saying, hey, we need you to do this, can you put your hands up? I want to thank these people because there's a lot of people working on this. Thank you for what you've been doing. That's a ton of work for SACs. I'm on the SACs board, so I don't get to see anything from Georgia, or you have to recuse yourself from Georgia. But I get to see a lot of materials from other institutions, and some of them are quite alarming, let me just put it like that. But nonetheless, Nonetheless, Middle Georgia will go into its SAC COC accreditation year, this coming year, with confidence because of the hard work of the people in this room. We do have something that we are going to launch shortly called a Quality Enhancement Plan that is required by SACs. It's a QEP is the acronym, and you're going to hear more about financial literacy. Our students are coming to one of the best value for money universities in the nation, and yet some of them are still not financially capable of leaving here without debt. They make decisions which jeopardize their learning. We want to help them understand finances. This doesn't belong just to the accountants and the business folks. It belongs to all students, that knowledge that they need to make their lives as well as their university experience successful. We're going to use a platform called Cash Course. At the moment, at the cabinet level, we're discussing how far we can get this in. On the one hand, if you make it, you know this in life, if you make something voluntary, well, you get a few keen people. If you make something compulsory, you create lots of headaches because there's always like, how are we going to do that? We're trying to get in the middle here. How do we get this popular and embraced and working and noted and students feeling it was part of their Middle Georgia experience in a way that works for the different students we've got? So the QEP is an important part of where we're going. So what do I want to finish on, our next decade? Well, first of all, if I knew what our next decade looked like, I would have a crystal ball and be earning a fortune. Maybe not as much as Elon Musk's bonus this week, but it would be if you could predict the future. Well, I'm not sure. Thank goodness the good Lord doesn't want us to know the future. What I can say that you have a paper under your desk, under your chair, maybe even under your backside at this point. I don't know, but you have a paper that you're maybe sitting on, and this is, I did one 5 years ago, and I've done one now. And I'm going to ask each vice president to make sure you discuss this throughout the year as to what it means. The first thing, there's 4 elements to this: academic reputation. I believe this is not only one of the best value universities in the nation, but I certainly think it's academically one of the strongest in Georgia. Our students can stand shoulder to shoulder with a graduate of any other school and be as knowledgeable, skilled, thoughtful, and engaged. That is academic success, but it's not yet appreciated to the extent that we want it to be. To every one of us who's a faculty member, and I also am a faculty member, the challenge I have is get your voice, not just in your classroom, but get it out in the media. Go to the national associations, present papers, do research projects that will elevate knowledge, build the academic reputation. We are a state university, and I'm more interested in the word university or public university than whatever level we're given in some ranking. Make sure our academic reputation continues. The reason I picked this out is that we're doing so well. We're just not necessarily known for that in the community as much as we should be. And that's a really great long-term task for our faculty and our folks in academic affairs. This is unavoidable because it's also the most important thing we do. If our students don't have an experience here and succeed, and I've put the word experience because I'm pushing the question, if student affairs have raised the engagement so well, which you have, how do we make sure that experience is strengthened in the next few years? And I don't think we have solved that conundrum with the online issue. I don't mean we, Middle Georgia. I don't think the world has figured out how to do engaged online very well. There are pockets of some great work, but we need to be able to prioritize what our students experience at Middle Georgia State. If we do that, they will succeed and they will be here. And again, in the article that I have put to paper, you will see some ideas and suggestions. This one is so impressive in terms of where we've come. I remember 10 years ago, if we needed data, we were struggling around, looking in filing cabinets, doing stuff like that. We have had amazing institutional research, academic assessment. We have created dashboards. You can find out live data. Today, in your divisional meetings, talk about some of the stuff and look at some live data about Middle Georgia State. So I want to commend where we've come. I'll tell you what I think we haven't yet done very much. Data alone doesn't engage the person. That comes from leadership. I once heard a great phrase: what is the story that you wish your data to help you say? What is the story that you wish your data to help you say? Who's in the lead there? The human being, not the data source. We're doing a lot of generation of data. I now ask each of us to start being leaders of using, shaping, changing, directing, evaluating, and building a community that knows how to lead with data. That is exciting. It's difficult. It comes back to the age-old Socratic principle of dialogue. It's in that bit, there's nothing revolutionary or technically difficult. It's actually very ancient. And putting that ancient stuff with brilliant modern stuff is where we will really thrive in this area. And actually, I'm now going to make a point. Well, I hope I've been making a few on the way, but I won't make another one. The point the back of this article you have has a table. And it's a table of every one of our peers in the university system. These are state universities within the university system of Georgia. You may have come to us from one of them. You may have friends at another one, and so on. Each of those institutions has data that we have pulled, available public sources, and you can look at Middle Georgia. And in many ways, do you remember that slide that said about tuition, that we only recently got the same tuition? We're behind them. I think there's a direct correlation. We weren't being funded as well as we are since the Chancellor made that decision. But now we need to do some catch-up. And some of that data in there is only meaningful if we have honest conversations and then make actions. In other words, use that Roman word strategy. It's only valuable if we make strategic decisions as a result of understanding that data. That is the challenge in this area for the next decade. And I'm excited with what we'll do with it. And finally, a bit like the foundation that last night asked me, can you come and help us? I want us all to be in places where you hear somebody on the outside want Middle Georgia to be part of their work or their life or their assistance or help them finish a project. We must engage. We are a public university. It's so easy to define the university. It's not so easy to define the word public. And the public is who we serve. And we have done, I'm so proud, whether you joined us today or whether you joined us many years ago, this past decade has been a really, really fabulous story. Thank you for writing that story. Thank you. It's taken an entire community to do it. There are days that you probably got lost in the script, didn't know which line to write next. Any of us that write know that feeling. It's very common. But we went on writing. And we went on sharing the story. And George Friedman is a great futurist, American-Hungarian economist. And I love this, because I'm a bit of a history fan myself. A century is about events. A decade is about people. We are the people of this story of Middle Georgia. We have had a decade. It's about the people you work with. It's about the hopes that you and they share. It's about the engagement, most of all, with the students who see you and me as someone that can help their story. Help their story. That's what I ask us to do in the next decade. And two other great people of history. I'm going to give you, I haven't put the quotes up, but I remember them. One is the great American President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who lived through difficult times and with very difficult health conditions for himself, the Great Depression, the Second World War. And Delano Roosevelt said, with a slight chuckle in his voice, "It's been great fun to be with you this decade." What a lovely way of understanding relationships. It's been great fun to be with you in this decade. It has been fun. Thank you. Thank you for making it fun. Thank you for making it valuable, noble, enriching, inspiring, frustrating, difficult, times irritating. But it's been fun. Wouldn't change it for anything. There's no other place that gets to do that fun from the ground up. There's one other quote that I think our students should learn this one because it's so true. Winston Churchill, similar figure from Roosevelt, said, when you're in your 20s, you're worried about what everyone thinks about you. When you're in your 40s, you don't care what anyone thinks about you. And when you're in your 60s, you realize they were never thinking about you anyway. So true. Last year you saw Sir Robert de Bourès, and I used him quickly, but I learned out a few more things. At the age of 20, he went off to the 8th Crusade, actually led by the French in that escapade in Tunisia, and he was out there for 2 years, put in jail, but when the treaty was signed, he got back to England, and he's a veteran at the age of 22. We have a lot of veterans at Middle Georgia State. He came back from the 8th Crusade in Tunisia in 1270. And he went on to be an ordinary guy. He was actually worked with our wonderful police. He ended up being a bailiff, getting a job. And his wife, he had a wife with kids, and she died tragically, and he married somebody local who was connected to the crown, who saw in him potential, and he became a knight. And now he has the second best, they say, grave brass on it in the planet, in Acton, Suffolk, England. I want to go and have a look at it when I'm next back in England. My point being, and I said this last year, he was just an ordinary guy who went off to war and came back, and we're talking about him 700-800 years later today. That's what a knight is. That's what our students are. And I want to finish by saying we are the knights. Each of us in this room and every student that comes through our door is a knight. They're ordinary people who can do great things and get recognized and appreciated for what they do. Just last week, Christy Roberts-Lewis, Rick Devens, and myself did a podcast, the first ever. That's being a knight. We've got a Middle Georgia podcast, and you are about to get the link in the next few days. The edits are about to be over. You can listen to the podcast. Sure, it's me, so you may not want to spend long on it, but we're going to have far more exciting people than me in the podcast. But Middle Georgia will now have a podcast. That is being a knight. And so my question to each of us, as we start this second decade, not only is it be fun, but what will you, what will I, what will we do as a knight? And with that, I wish you well. Welcome back. It's going to be a great year. It's going to be a super decade. I hope a few of us are still around. And with that, go Knights! At this point, I mentioned earlier how fortunate we are. We are going to be joined by the Chancellor of the University System of Georgia, Dr. Sonny Perdue. He, as many of you are aware, Dr. Perdue has been the governor of the state twice. He's been the Secretary of Agriculture. He is now the Chancellor of the University System. I believe that a lot of the things we were talking about, he would say that is what at the system we are looking for, the use of data, the use of accountability and affordability, and making sure that our students succeed in the quickest way with the least amount of debt. And he has been, in the 3 years, charting a new vision for what the university system can do, and it's a vision that certainly is inspiring us. He's going to make some remarks. We will come to some questions afterwards with me. You'll be glad to know, Chancellor. It's set up for questions with me. But now I invite Chancellor Perdue to make some remarks. Chancellor.
Well, thank you very much, President Blake, and good morning, everybody. I see such excitement out here. Y'all ready to get going again, right? Well, your students will be coming in this weekend and Convocation next Monday, so it is an exciting time. I really wanted to stop by. I was in Macon this morning for a chamber meeting there, and for those of you Maconites, you may recognize this cherry blossom jacket here. I know it's out of season, but I wore it in honor of my good friend Carolyn Creighton today, who was always a supporter of the Cherry Blossom Festival and that whole week, in which Macon was famous. But I didn't have a big message here, President Blake, other than just really to express gratitude. This is really the first faculty convocation I have attended in the 3 years, so I didn't know if you knew that or not, but when you invited me to stop by, I appreciate that opportunity, because I meet with faculty senates and others, some different councils, but I don't know that I've ever spoken to the faculty at large like this. Pardon? Faculty and staff, certainly in that way, because I don't think the faculty want to do their job without staff. So we appreciate all of you. But nonetheless, I just want to appreciate, I think we're moving in a great direction. I think there's a lot of momentum in the system as a whole. And I looked at some of the nursing numbers, President Blake, and those looked very good. And fact is, I'm probably not going to, I haven't told the Board of Regents this yet, but enrollment system-wide is going to be, again, surprisingly good. We'll meet next week and we'll disclose those numbers to them. But that's really a tribute to all of you who are making it able for students to come and to learn. Our focus really is creating good citizens who are able to have a job and a career and really change their life. Some of you may have heard me say this before, but when I came back from D.C., I really thought my public life was over. So I signed into LinkedIn really in kind of a snarky little way, and I said, born a dirt farmer, tried a couple of other jobs, but I never could escape, thinking I was going back to a dirt road and a tin roof. And so when the Chancellor of the Regents asked me to do this job, I said, well, they probably expect something a little more erudite than that their Chancellor could have maybe more than a 5-word, sentence there. So I use that big word, erudite. But nonetheless, I'd signed in, then I changed my profile on LinkedIn and said, Chancellor of the University System of Georgia, possibly the most impactful job I've ever had. And I want you to know that's sincere with me. When my second term in the Georgia State Senate, Lieutenant Governor Pierre Howard was the Lieutenant Governor, and he assigned committee chairs. And he called me in the second term, and he said, Sonny, I think you've got some potential. We're looking for it, but I think you have some. We're going to try to find it. I would love to appoint you as the committee chairman, but don't get excited. It's not going to be a big, like appropriations or rules or anything like that. Where do you think you could be most effective? And I looked around and I said, my mother was an English teacher for 42 years. For those of you in the learning arts and language arts, I still get PTSD over dangling participles. But I said, Lieutenant Governor, I think I can be most effective in helping promote the economy of the state and the state as a whole in higher education. So he allowed me to chair the Committee on Higher Education for that time. So I've always had a respect for the fact. I think I learned from Governor Miller, Zell Miller at that time, who had just come into office as well, over the impact. It's like a flywheel. Education, higher education, and economic development are on the same flywheel, and one propels the other. Our economic development helps us to have more opportunities for education. More education provides a talent flow for more recruiting for companies. When I was governor in 2003 to 2011, we were recruiting companies to come to Georgia, and you know what their question was? How much are you going to pay us per job? What are going to be the incentives? How do you want to how do you want to entice me to come from a monetary perspective? Do you know what they ask now? Where are we going to get the talent? And that's why what you do is so important. And I just want to express my gratitude and thanks for each of you in every category, every aspect of that as we continue to evolve, as we continue to modernize curricula and those kind of areas, keeping up with this changing economic environment that moves so rapidly. We can't be left behind. I think our university system is much more nimble than it had been in the past, and for that I think is a good thing, because our goal is to train young and not so young people for the world out there that they will embrace and they will face in that way. And I tell President Blake will understand that one of my favorite degrees, as I say to our presidents often, I hope you will create an FIO degree. And they look at me rather questioningly and say, I don't think I've ever heard of an FIO degree. I said, well, it's figure it out. So as the people who we're preparing for the economy, they want students, they want graduates through experiential learning who are critical thinkers, who can work in a team, who can solve problems, who can think about the challenge of not where they are, but where they need to be in that way. So as we think about, it's not just content, it's about helping young and not so young people grow into a mindset of problem solving. And that's really what figuring it out is. And that's what our employers and others in the economy want. And we're making a big push, as we'll talk about next week, President Blake, over entrepreneurship. I think our goal in our university system, we've got a lot of creative ideas out here all across the state, and we want to afford an ecosystem to help these bright young people who have ideas. How do we bring that to the marketplace, really to change lives? We've got some wonderful unicorns in Georgia, MailChimp and those kind of things, but there are a lot of good ideas out there that we want to provide a nurturing hotbed of ideas to come together and sprout and grow into ideas that serve better humankind. So that's really the role of education in that way, and I just so much appreciate you all being willing to come to the grinding shoulder, put your shoulder to the wheel, as we all. When I first got here, Chris, you remember, I want everybody in this room to feel like their palm is on that flywheel and know where it is pushing that way, because you're all part of that. And the better you know where you're pushing that way and helping that, you're part of that ecosystem that makes a better Georgia. I am firmly convinced, and I say it very often, that you show me where higher education is in Georgia today, and I'll show you where Georgia will be in 30 or 40 years. I believe that, and that's why I have such gratitude and respect for what you all do right here at Middle Georgia. So thank you for allowing me to visit this morning, and go get them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor, and we're honored that you were able to join us today, and we thank you for what you're doing. Now, we will be breaking for coffee in, I promise, 11 minutes, but we're going to have a 10 in 10 with Rick Devens, because we asked if you had questions that you wanted to ask. And I have not seen these questions, so I'm going to be put through the gauntlet. It does feel like the Middle Ages now, where I'm going to be quizzed publicly. No rotten tomatoes or apples or pears or fruit thrown at me if I give the wrong answer. Okay, Rick, over to you.
All right. Only fair to point out that he has not seen the questions. And Dr. Blake, fair to point out I did not choose the questions.
So who's the villain around here that's done all this?
Number one, will there be a focus on research opportunities for MGA?
Yes, and that goes back to the mention I had of Donna and to Donna Balding. If you don't know, Donna is in charge of the Office of Sponsored projects and research, and her work is to make sure that we provide for our faculty and our staff ways in which they can do research. Additionally, as a state university, there are requirements for teaching, service, and scholarship, all focused around student success. And so I know that the Office of Provost is looking at how do we build that scholarship. It doesn't have to be pure science research in each discipline, it's different. But yes, we will, and I'm glad, and thank you, Donna, and everyone else that is doing scholarship and research.
Outstanding. Question number 2. How will AI and other emerging technologies impact how we teach, recruit, or operate at MGA?
I don't know, I'll have to go and look on ChatGPT to answer that one. I think that is, I've got, 60 seconds to answer this. AI represents a fundamental episodic change in human evolution, personal belief, not a fact. Secondly, machine learning and the super mind does not negate or replace human encounter. The FDR, it's been fun being with you in this past decade. That's about human experience. So we need, as educators, to take the lead in figuring out how do we as humans utilize the incredible power of machine learning and supercomputing in a way that builds the human community. And I'm proud. And if the Chancellor, I think he may have left, but if he was still here, I would say, and it was the Chancellor that singly championed our applied AI degree. We are the only institution, and at the moment the USG is not moving on other. I know I've exceeded 60 seconds, but a big shout out to David and all the faculty involved in that AI. Am I right that we bring the enrollment starts this fall on that? Great, so we'll revisit that question in the years to come, I am sure.
You solved AI, you can go a little over 60 for that. All right, how will the creation of the new Commission for Public Higher Education affect MGA's accreditation?
Not yet, it does not. That we, as I mentioned, our SACS liaison is Dr. Monica Beloga, and with Chris Sawada and many others, they're working to get our accreditation up to SACS. Accreditation lasts 10 years. 10 years. I have a feeling that once we're accredited, we are eligible for financial aid from the federal government and so on and so on. So for us, it'll be watch this in the next 10 years. Let's see what happens. We are 100% SACS accredited, and our reaffirmation is days away from going up. That will be something we watch others grapple with before we have to.
Is there a plan,
I get my water.
Or could we develop a plan, as you get your water, to update our older campus buildings?
Yes, there are two ways we can do that. One is we can go up to the Board of Regents, and Amanda and her team do a fantastic job of figuring out opportunities for expansion or renovation. But here's a challenge. We have 5 campuses. It seems a bit unfair, but sometimes you're a victim of your own success. We have 5 campuses, whereas we have 1. It's very easy to go up to the board and say, we've got 1 campus and these needs improving. We have to pick and mix. Secondly, fundraising. We've had some great opportunities to improve in technology equipment and others, and we will continue to reach out in our new fundraising campaign for support of ways. Fundraisers don't really want to put in new bricks and mortar. What they will want to do is partner with you and then either help support a program or support student learning. So that amazing cross-country is a good illustration. We got grants for that, we put our own money, and now I'm talking with donors about, would you like to support that program? In other words, guess what that model is? It's a team effort. There's not one club of golf to hit that. You need different strategies to get those kind of funds. But the answer is that's how we're going to go forward on that.
5 campuses. This next question about one of them specifically. What are your plans to enhance and expand the Warner Robins campus?
First of all, I said the most important thing we have is our people. I'm delighted that sitting just a few feet in front of me is Dr. Doug Reiser. He just joined us, a veteran of the Houston County school system. He is now our campus director for Warner Robins and will work with a team of campus directors in supporting other campuses too. And Doug's job is to help our faculty and the administration and our students understand the opportunities in Warner Robins and to help Nancy and her team engage with the funds that are available in Houston County. Secondly, we're in discussions with Robins Air Force Base about them using some of our space, and until that is finished, and until the federal process is slow, I'm sure you're aware of that. But my colleague Bob Herman, also in front of me, he's helping with that. We are hoping that that will successfully come to a conclusion, that Robins Air Force Base will be part of our Warner Robins campus. And thirdly, our great, I'm so glad you got to shout out nursing numbers. That's great. The ASN is moving to Warner Robins as of this year. We have 61 students signed up for the ASN. That's the Associates of Nursing in Warner Robins. In short, what we did in Dublin, and we want to keep with Dublin, I know Stephen Savonovich here somewhere, but we need to now put that same love into Warner Robins, and it's a great county. And finally, I was at an event last night that was somewhat overwhelming about the new STEM Allied Health Building and STEM building that's a partnership between the schools and higher education. We have been invited to be part of that, and we will muscle hard to be at the table there. So,
there you go.
A lot on Warner Robins there.
Exciting things happening in Warner Robins and everywhere, including with our athletics program. So yes, go Knights. Going forward for the next 10 years, will the MGA athletic teams remain at their current campus locations?
Predicting the future is always the art of foolishness. I will say this. There is absolutely no discussion of relocating our athletics, of concentrating it in one campus alone. I think we need to turn into an asset the liability of having two campus athletic locations. Turn it into an asset. You've already heard the mantra, all your assets are liabilities anyway. Well, guess what? Turn your liabilities into your assets. I think this gives us a tremendous opportunity. I wouldn't be going out and talking about cross-country if I thought we were about to pack up, sell off the land and move cross-country. So in short, I see no plan, and there is no discussion, there hasn't been one single discussion yet about changing athletics. It's about strengthening athletics, strengthening it, which is changing it, I suppose.
How can we demonstrate that a degree is still valuable amid shifting societal expectations and economic pressures?
That takes everyone in this room to answer that question. I tell you as president, I'll give you an opinion. You actually heard it from the Chancellor. That was the sort of the old, I had a wonderful trip to Greece this year. When you get to Greece, you realize what a if you want Western civilization at its most sophistication, go back to where it starts. And you really can see that we need human thinking to guide this century. And now, I also know we need careers, we need leaders in those careers, but the pressure, and I saw it last night, is to simply take 18-year-olds, dual enrollment, get them minimally qualified and get them into in this case, careers in health. I think we need to then say to those working students doing their careers in health, you need further continued development. But that is a whole cultural answer to that question, and I'm assuming here, everyone in this room believes in the value of what I would call university 4-year education, which is why I harp on about our undergraduate baccalaureate degree. That is what distinguishes us from the technical college system.
Are there plans to introduce new programs or majors in the next few years?
Again, David would be a better person, and the deans would be. I hope so. I hope revisions to existing programs. I hope recalibrating existing programs. We have great programs. I hope we think, are they in the right idiom for what is now history and long history. Now the second quarter of the 21st century. Many of us can remember, Y2K and the great meltdown that didn't happen on our computers. Well, that was over a quarter of a century ago, all that stuff. So I think augment what we're doing so well, refine what we're doing so well. Maybe one or two. I think there's a case for saying that majors will change, the requirements in health and things like occupational therapy and respiratory therapy, they're going to change and we need to adapt our degrees with them. But I'm not looking to say, let's go and start a school of Slavonic studies. Not doing that. Kind of interesting topic, though. I could talk about Slavonic studies. I did a course in it once.
That'll be our next Q&A.
That'll be next Convocation. We'll do that.
All right, what do you think the biggest challenges will be in MGA's second decade as a university?
My first challenge is to apologize to the faculty member out there that has a PhD in Slavonic studies and has just been hired. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry that if that... I think we've already done it, and I want people to get their coffee. I've outlined the challenges. You've got a paper, read them through. Our data suggests that we need to have a story of excellence because we're lagging behind a few other public institutions. Those public institutions are the ones that will get the hospitals and the businesses go to more quickly to give program support. So it's a catch-up. That's our big... we are great. But we now, with the resources we have, can be greater still. And but it's going to take a decade. It's going to take a decade. This is not fix it by this afternoon. It won't be fixed by this afternoon. It begins with another year today, but it'll go on. That story is something we will say over the next decade.
That takes us into our final question, the big finale. What lessons learned from MGA's first decade will be the most helpful in navigating our second?
I think for those of you that would have been here a couple of years ago, we understood that campus strength is critical, that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. But if the parts aren't great, your whole isn't going to be great either. That for me, it was this. When I arrived 12 years ago and we became a university 10 years ago, we were still grappling with how to do programming and outreach in different communities. We have made a really good progress in defining you can't be all things to all people on every campus. So what is the campus story? And that continues today. Dublin has got definition. Eastman has always had some definition, but Eastman has continued to look at the Cochrane area and the Macon downtown area as part of its responsibilities. What I would like us to do is press the question, how do we still make the whole greater than the sum of the parts, making sure that no one area gets neglected. And I'll give a challenge. I've heard, I'm thrilled about it, that faculty are being asked that if their home base is one campus, that they spend a day a week on another campus. This is my challenge to you. Go 2 days a week to yet another campus. Don't go 1 day a week to another campus. Go 2 days to 2 campuses. Then you'll be helping fix the whole problem. And I say that for staff as well, and I know Amanda will tell me, well, they're going to have a lot of mileage expenses there, and she's right to warn me about the cost of that. But unless you go and have lunch in Company Supply in downtown Dublin, or go to the Greek Cafe in Warner Robins, unless you're doing that, you're missing out on opportunities to build this university. And with that, everyone wants coffee, don't they? And a break. You've been really good. You listened for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So.
There you go. Go get some coffee and a break. Thank you, President Blake. Thank you, everyone who sent in questions.
I do have one final word. If you had questions you submitted that weren't picked, please let me know what they were, and I'll try and give you an answer. So, thank you, folks. Go Knights!